Hello, ActiveSage here on the Sage channel, and today a wonderful thing was added. Actually, two things. Blast doors, or you can see them if we scroll down to here. You can see we have an assortment of different blocks, which are all called blast doors, and they're well, they use a fair amount more supplies than just a normal block would. And then we have pistons, which are right here. You can see piston. Pretty dang cool. So, we'll start off with the piston. Here it is. Pretty simple and straightforward. If I fly up to the top of it, you will be able to see that it does indeed have a cargo or a conveyor port to it. And from inside of it, you could actually move stuff about if it was connected up to anything. And you can see that I can access a door in the piston because, of course, the top section here, much the same as the top of a rotor, acts as a separate ship, or as the devs would call a separate grid. And I can access other things through it, just like a rotor, and I can send power through it. So let's go ahead and look at the settings in the piston itself, shall we? So here we go. We got the name of it, show on HUD as per usual, a reverse button similar to a rotor, velocity similar to a rotor, and then we have max distance and minimal distance. And this is pretty straightforward. Max distance, so let's set it to move at the forward speed, and let's go ahead and look at it. And you see now it's actually extended while we're doing it. Let's go ahead and actually put in a control seat here, that way we can see it slightly better while we're fiddling with it, shall we? So pop that in there, hop in here, there we go, and go ahead and press K, select the piston, and we're just going to tell it to reverse, and you can see it come on down, pretty dang straightforward. Now, we can go ahead and once more go into here, set the minimal distance to be, let's say, 2 meters, such as that. Oh, it's still there, that's surely within the minimal distance, yes it is, but if we reverse it, it goes up, and then we tell it to come back down. It's going to come down and it'll hit that minimal distance and stop. There we go. And of course we can set the far distance, so if we only want it to go between 2 meters to 3 meters, we can set it like that. And you can see there it only moves that small amount, which is actually quite hard to see. Let's set it to 5 instead of the original 10. So there we go, bring it down. And now we're going to go ahead and set this to actually exactly 5 and tell it to reverse and go back up. And there we go. Now, you're probably noticing something strange about this. The large red message on the side of my screen. Currently, if you are in creative mode, these don't actually need power, but mind you, when you're in survival, they do need power as far as I can tell. But anyway, let's go ahead and do one more thing that you've probably noticed, and here is the velocity, and you can up that all the way to 5, so if we reverse that, you can see now it moves a fair bit faster. Now let's go ahead and set this back to its normal distance. And that's about 4 blocks distance. So that's pretty cool. You can expand something that's usually 2 blocks all the way up to 4 blocks extra. So it's a total of 6 blocks. And I'll demonstrate there, right there, up to 6. And you can see you can build around this. That way, if you'd like to have something mounted on it, such as a chair, you could easily have a chair that goes up and down. Or you could have it be used as just a super simple lift, where if I was to cut a hole down here, actually that's a 1 too low, there we go. Cut a hole right there. And if we were to be standing on top of this, there you go, it's now a super simple lift. If we had, let's say, some walls here, and also above us, you could hop in, access the control panel, and say, "Dear lift, kindly take me down another floor." It's going a bit too quick, I think, right now, but there you go. Super simple lift. And of course, over here, I have a more advanced lift, because just like rotors, you can attach things to the top of it. And as I said, it does allow power to go through, so you can see there, these lights are powered because this section here is powered by that reactor right down there. And so you could use this one to walk across quite easily onto an elevator, hop in a seat, and then tell this lift to go down. And you see this one goes down quite easily. And it's very, very nice. And of course, these luckily do not impact one another. It's very, very nice. I actually like it a lot, and you can step over these without falling through it. I know these aren't their original purpose, but they seem to work pretty well at that. What else do we have to show you? Well, we do have some other issues I'm going to get onto right now, since we're right next to this. This is a small ship piston, so they're also available on small ships. And if I was to go ahead and pop into here, remember, because we're in creative, that's why it doesn't need power right now, but we're going to tell that to expand. That's pretty cool. Pretty nice. Again, it adds an extra 4 blocks to the original 2, so 6 blocks total, and we can go ahead and call it back down. Now, a strange thing with pistons, though, on small ships is, unlike the ones for large ships and stations, if I was to go ahead and try to put that there, you can see, and that's a sort of a glitch where if it hits a spot where it can't add more, it'll actually still manage to add more after it. So, a bit strange there, but you can see where it's hitting these spots here where it's not able to add them around this. So it's actually slightly problematic, because for some reason on this one, it would appear that the new grid here, the new little ship segment here that's being created, is actually slightly larger, which is problematic. Especially if we were to go ahead and take one of these, we'll duplicate it. Actually, we have another ship just to demonstrate this, don't we? Here we go, this is it, and you can see that it's actually pushed itself out. So how I got this was actually, I built the pole, and then I added the piston to it like that, and you see it sort of bends out because it's too big for it. And if I was to go ahead and cut this free, oh dear Lord God, you can see we end up with some serious trouble. If we copy and paste this, same thing. Bit strange, it's something to do with the physics engine having a collision, and I don't exactly understand it all. So it can be pretty problematic. And also, I have noticed that if we were to go ahead and take this here, cut this away, and tell this to kindly expand out. Oh, that worked pretty fine. That actually worked pretty well. But I have noticed before, if we copy this and paste it, sometimes things go wrong. Luckily, it looks like right now it's behaving itself pretty dang well. Yes, it is. We got lucky this time, or they fixed it in a micro patch before, since the last time I tested a few minutes ago, which is doubtful. It might just be a fluke that you get strangey. Oh, also, another thing to be extremely cautious about when dealing with pistons. Coloring them. Yeah. It's like deflating a balloon, isn't it? It's actually quite fun if you think about it. You can go ahead and place like 20 of these in here and color them. And color it. And color it. And yeah. Mind you, if you go ahead and paste one of these, and it is currently down in its small size, so let's go ahead and tell it to go back to... Okay, well, there was one of the glitches I was talking about. Yeah, so let's go ahead and do that again, see if it happens again. There you go, piston. Shrink kindly. Okay, didn't do it that time. Don't know why it did it last time. Like I said, it's sort of finicky. Color it while it's compressed. If you color them, no issue. So we got lucky there. Pretty dang cool overall, but obviously some glitches. It was just added. Oh, and now you can see it's having a heyday of spurging. It's probably because I colored it. Let's see what happens if I try to condense it again. Seems relatively stable. Let's see if we expand it again. If that happens again, I suspect it won't now that it's almost like it's loaded it. Yeah, it seems like it's doing fine, so gotta be careful while coloring these. The large ones, if I was to go ahead and cut into here, and actually let's go ahead and cut this out all the way, that way we can properly access it and get to everything we might need to. Oh, let me fly up there and cut this away. There we go. And let's go ahead and expand this large one again, that way we can properly test it. And this is, of course, attached to a station, so it probably won't have so much trouble. So let's reverse it. It looks good, looks pretty good. Okay, let's color it, no issue. But let's go ahead, for testing purposes, and find ourselves a piston over here. That is actually just a, well, this is a station, but let's go ahead and convert it to a ship, shall we? So here you go, piston, kindly info, convert to ship. Awesome, okay, let's go ahead and expand it, and notice nothing. Right now, if you take a station and convert it to a ship, any pistons on board it will no longer work. If I go ahead and actually copy this, you'll notice that when I paste it, the top of the piston head is now missing. We could, of course, go ahead and replace the piston, but of course, if you had a full ship setup, that would not exactly be ideal. And you see they're coloring it. The top and bottom sort of color separately currently, so a bit strange. Let's go ahead and actually expand this now that we had it on station. So there we go, it's expanded. Let's speed that up a little bit. We are on a ship now, so it might cause the ship to move a bit. And that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and color it, shall we? And there you go, a little bit of a move. So clearly the issue with coloring it persists even on large ship pistons. So little trouble, be very cautious when coloring this stuff. And we've bumped an awful lot of things out of the way. Really quickly, let me reload this because I may have messed up something else I was going to show. Okay, that's gone bad. Alrighty, there we go. Everything back to pretty much to normal. And you're probably wondering, hey, Sage, what's up with the door? Well, I was thinking maybe it's intentional that the piston currently does not actually need energy when you're in creative. Maybe it's for design, so I thought maybe, hey, maybe you'll be able to open and close doors without energy now while you're in creative mode. No such luck, so I think that's probably just a glitch that they'll have fixed pretty soon. Also, by the way, I do find it quite funny that now if you aim at the ground, it sort of locks to a center point even with a small ship piece. So I'm thinking that in the future, it is a possibility that these might actually connect together in some other way. They currently don't. By the way, I'm going to go ahead and expand this one. And now I'm going to cut it free, so we can just have some extra nonsense. And you can see now that that head is no longer colliding, it sort of isn't spurging out. It's just in the spin that I got from the original collision. But of course, if I was to go ahead and pull it back in, we will end up with the same issue we had a minute ago. Let me just get to that really quickly. There we go. Tell you to pull back in, and as soon as it begins to collide again, yeah, issues. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Let's move on from that, because I've shown enough of that, and this is just to show that it does not happen on large ships. If I was to go ahead and, well, do that, now you can see it's not spurging out the same way it did on large ships, and I can, of course, tell this to expand, and we don't get any such issue because the collision volume on that one is smaller. And I can actually demonstrate that by turning on collision volumes, Alt-Shift F12, and you see the collision volume is much smaller than a full block size, whereas over here, if you look at it, well, it's actually much smaller too, but for some reason it doesn't seem to be acting quite as friendly. Don't fully understand that. Anyway, moving on. Oh, and by the way, it looks like it actually pushed down and hit that, so it's bumped it up, which is pretty cool. And if I was to copy and paste it, no such issues that we had before. But of course, mind you, if I try to color it, well, I bet you we're going to have the same fun results. Yep. Okay, good. It didn't hit anything. I was afraid I just ruined something else. Silly me. That was quite dangerous. I probably shouldn't have done that. Anyway, moving on, we do have this thing here. And this is actually a similar issue that we had to over there where we converted a station into a ship. So right here we have, I believe both of these are currently ships. So that's a ship. That's, of course, a ship because it's attached to a piston top. And this is a ship because I've already converted it before I placed this piston here. And there's still some floating pieces out there. So now we're going to go ahead and tell this to kindly reverse and go up there. And you expect the merge blocks to hit merge and then the piston to keep moving, right? Yes. Well, it's still moving in a way, right? Yeah. Some issues with this. I'm sure they'll get them sorted out in due time. I have a feeling this is actually extremely complicated. But yeah, now your piston's sort of broken. Trouble, just avoid merge blocks with these right now until that gets fixed, I guess. Okay, moving on, you might have noticed, as I even pointed out, that there is that conveyor block at the top. If I was to show the piston, you can see there is indeed one at the bottom as well, so you can convey stuff straight through it. Let me go ahead and select gray. That's bugging me that I'm still using red. And to demonstrate that you can indeed move stuff through them, I have this huge line here, and this little reactor hooked up to pipes that are actually hooked up to the bottom of that, and at the very top there is a large cargo container. So I can go ahead and pop that open, you see the large cargo container, and I can drag stuff all the way from there through all of those, all the way back into my inventory, and then I can put it back in there again. Pretty dang cool. And of course, if I felt so fit, I could go ahead and select all these pistons, and of course they count as different grids each, so they end up with a different color coding, and tell them all, and let's go ahead and max the speed, to expand. And you can see some weirdness has actually happened there as they're all trying to expand at once. And let's of course tell this to reverse. So pistons, kindly select you all. I'm going to make a group just called piston. That way I can select them much faster. And we're just going to tell them to reverse now. Yeah, so you get some weirdness. Ooh, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. That is actually quite entertaining to watch, if not exactly ideal. Let's go ahead and expand them again. And by the way, you can actually still move stuff through them, so they haven't fully broken yet. And so let's expand them once more and reverse. And they're going at their max speed. That's why they're a bit extra finicky right now. And that actually looks pretty awesome, I think. It's like a serpent or something. And let's go ahead and check. And oh yeah, you can still move stuff through there. So it's like a big tether rope you can move stuff through. I'm actually quite pleased with this. And it actually makes sense because the way it ends up rippling and stuff is largely because all these different sections are trying to expand at once and they're pushing down on each other, so they end up bowing out to the side. So this isn't even really a glitch so much as, well, sensible. I actually like it a lot. That right there is a glitch, but overall, pretty impressive. I think actually two of them might have malfunctioned and not actually expanded, so that's almost an acceptable glitch where you could imagine it just broke and sheared. I'm quite happy with this, and you can see it drifting about. It's pretty dang awesome. I mean, look at that. It looks like a space tether now, is what it looks like. And it's actually drifting quite far away. I wonder if it's going to bounce back in a second. I suspect it will. It's pretty dang cool. I'm really quite happy with it. And of course, we could do the same thing over here if I could reach it and pull the supplies back and forth. But I'm not going to bother because that would take me half an hour probably to catch that thing as the way it is swaying. Is that quite entertaining? Let's go ahead and pull it down, see if it causes any impact and break, and then move on to the next thing I'm showing. And land. Look up there, some wibbly wobbly amazingness that I am loving. Select that, pistons, kindly reverse, and they're of course all pulling each other down, and I'm loving that. That is quite entertaining. I am really loving that. Alrighty, so let's move on from that nonsense and move on to the next thing we have to show, which would be over here at this station here. Now, of course, with the piston set like this, as I've shown, it'll move without issue. So let's just demonstrate this again. It'll move without issue like it does on the small ship. you know, that issue on the small ship is not present here. But of course, if you go ahead and try to place a block, you can't, because this block would also be in contact with the floor. To counteract that and allow you to have doors, they have these special blocks here that I'm currently placing in. Here's the piston that I was using before. If we scroll down a bit, you can see now we have blast door segments. That's what these are, is blast door segments. So I'm going to go ahead and drag these all down here. That way I can show you the blast door segments. And you can see if you align them correctly, actually that's one that is still touching the ground, but you'll use a piece like this and place it there, and you can see it is actually touching the ground. In fact, if I was actually to go into spectator mode, and ignore that kindly, bring our camera over here, you can actually see it's pretty much perfectly touching it, or maybe not touching it by a smallest tiny bit, but that's actually fine because it's designed in such a way that the collision mesh actually doesn't hit it. If, in fact, I can demonstrate such a thing. If I hop into here, you can see the blue collision mesh, or actually it's yellow right here, just barely goes under. Yeah, we got a tiny little gap here that I'm currently flying through. So the collision mesh actually isn't hitting it, so it doesn't cause trouble. So if we were actually to go ahead and use this and tell it to pull inwards, it works perfectly. It's actually quite cool. And so you got a bunch of different blocks. I'll fly over here to show you them all. We got the one I was just using, which is, well, it's shaped like this, or the little spot there won't hit it. And you can actually see that it is slightly smaller than a normal block on the two other sides to allow you to basically make a door. We have our corner section, which is much the same, where it will be making contact with all of these, but it will not actually merge with them or cause any damage to them, so you can have a nice airtight seal there. And then we also have a inner corner. That way, if you would like to make some more complicated things, you can do so if you wish. Pretty cool. This one, basically, you will be actually making contact where it will do damage on this side, the other side, all the sides basically, except for the left and right sides, similar to the first block in that way. In fact, similar to all of them, where they do not actually touch the sides here, as I can demonstrate like so. You can see a tiny little gap through there. And then we have the final one, which is this nice little corner, which I actually think I already showed a second ago, so I don't want showing it again. Anyway, it's pretty cool. And I should also note, though, that on small ships, all these do indeed exist as well, which is pretty dang cool, so you could have your own little small ship doors and stuff, provided you're not experiencing some of the issues I have been having, which I'm sure they will fix relatively quickly. And that silliness right there, I don't know what I was expecting to accomplish with that. Anyway, it's pretty cool, pretty awesome. Oh, and by the way, I do hope to God that in the near future, they change it so that the collision volume on the landing gear is similar to these, in the fact that from front to back and side to side, they have that same sort of little gap like this. That way you could have retractable landing gears very easily. Pretty dang cool. Anyway, let's move on and actually show these in action, shall we? So we have a setup of basically two of these, one like, I believe it is, yeah, like this, and one like that, set up to basically give us a door right here. So if we go ahead and tell us, hey, kindly open this small piston door, or small door piston, tell it to reverse, you can see we basically have what I just showed right here as a huge door, which is pretty cool. And also for building supplies, as I mentioned earlier, these take a bit more than your usual stuff. That one takes 130, whereas, let's say, a normal block, well, we don't have many around here, but here we go, a normal block is only 25. And moving on, you can see you can have much, much larger doors. So let's go ahead, and I don't actually have a box in here to open this door, so let's really quickly just grab ourselves a door, shall we? That way I can use this control panel. And we can tell this door here, the large piston door, to reverse as well. And voila, you get a nice big door opening. By the way, the previous door that's currently behind me, it had its own set range to only move about a block in distance, which is why, which is pretty much the exact same setup as that one there. Pretty much. A little bit different, so that's why it uses a much more compact space, whereas this door, it uses a full length because it's going to have a full 4 block long door, which is pretty dang cool. You can see it used those corner pieces I was showing earlier to make sure it had a nice tight seal there. It's actually very nice. I'm very, very pleased with that. Now, the only other thing I have to show really is just a demonstration of something I thought was pretty damn cool. And it's basically a light setup like this, where you have your light, a rotor, or I say your light, where you have your piston, a rotor, and a block with 2 lights on it. Of course, your power supply can be here, can be running through the whole thing. And I have the whole thing set up pretty much from here, so I can hop in here, click K, turn on our lights, turn on our rotors, and turn on our pistons. And now you can see they will all come down, so you could have yourself a pretty damn nice emergency setup on your ship. And I'm overall just thrilled with this setup. It's awesome. Okay, so one last thing that I just about forgot to show you guys. New small ship, place it there. get ourselves a reactor, get ourselves an engine. And you're probably wondering, Sage, what the heck are you doing? What are you doing here? Well, you can now control engines without the need for a cockpit. So you can see the engines on as it usually would be. You can actually go in here, find the thruster, and it's currently set to disable thruster override. This means that whenever you're using a cockpit, it'll just be used normally. Well, you can go ahead and turn this up, so now it's putting out its full maximum power. So if I was to go ahead and copy and paste this, just so I have one, cut it free, yeah, so you can have something quite interesting there. And actually we can go ahead and paste a few of these if we felt so fit. And you can see instantly, of course, the landing gear is catching, so that's quite interesting, quite a bit of fun. And now, of course, if we wanted to, we could just simply crouch down right here and let them all go. Oh, go on, join your friends. There you go. And of course, this could be used for a bunch of different things. You could have missiles like that where they're actually being held by a landing gear on the larger ship and you release them, or any sort of different things, even minor delivery drones where maybe they shoot off in a certain direction and then once they get to somewhere else, you have maybe a gravity mitt designed to catch them, or who knows what else. You can figure out a billion things. An auto miner that'll just continuously press downwards into an asteroid. I'm sure you'll find out a bunch of stuff to use on that. That is not just specific, by the way, to small ships. That is also available on large ships. So if I was to do the same exact thing, you can see we can create a monstrosity of a automatic thing here by doing much the same. There you go. And of course, with copy paste, you can do some really quite stupid things. And cause some incidents too. Brilliant. And also, one last thing that I did also forget is that you can now adjust something on rotors that you couldn't do before. Now let me actually go ahead and put a reactor down right here so I can access that rotor. And you can see if I stuck the top of the rotor on, it reaches over and there is a minor gap right here. Yes? Well, now thanks to some new stuff they've added, if we select that rotor and use the scroll bar at the right here to scroll all the way down, you can see a rotor displacement. So you can now shift it so the rotor should be slightly more displaced. So let's go ahead and actually... Alright, so I can't actually seem to get this to do anything. You can see the gap right here. It's pretty notable. And we can go ahead and grab this, select our rotor, and tell it, hey, kindly move that down to a tiny little gap. And was there a difference there? I think there was a tiny one. It is indeed moving this centimeters. You can see there, it's actually centimeters. So it might be moving it. I'm just not able really to see it. Either way, that's the idea, that it moves this up and down. So yeah, that's it for real this time, guys. And let's see, if I turn this on and tell it to move a tiny bit, will that then make a difference? Will that then bring it up and down? Let's see if I do that. Rotor, negative height. So now, if I'm right, it should come and actually be very close to the top. Maybe that's all I had to do was actually turn it on. Let's see. Is it now going to have barely any clearance? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so it's just because it wasn't on. Anyway, that's it, guys. It's pretty cool that they have that. It's allowed you to align stuff better. It's pretty damn awesome. Anyway, thanks a bunch for watching, guys. And, yeah. I'll see you next time. Why you do this? Why you do this? Oh, thank God.